Hunter secrets. You often want to time them correctly so that with, for example, you know, an ambush, you're timing it for when your opponent plays one big minion. A bamboozle, which he is running as well, you want to be timing that correctly as well. But we'll be getting into that more once the rogue... Oh, sorry, well, the rogue won't even be coming up because it's banned on both sides. So not even going to be a concern for both of these players. It is instead the double Paladin to get things going here. And while we have seen consistently Lorinda it do pretty poorly over today, I think DimitriKazov in particular is a player who's looking to get off to a rip-roaring start with this Paladin.
Yeah, and the opposite as well. Like, it has been struggling today. This Paladin mirror could easily decide the whole series here if Paladin continues to be garbage. Like,
yeah.
If Paladin is the only deck that Paladin is beating, then you need to win this one really, really urgently.
Well, this hand went from disastrous to meh for Crane now with the Attendant into Crab Rider. Really, you want the buffs, or you want, at the very least, some assurance that your mid-game will be powerful. Whereas at the moment, Crane obviously has no assurance that he'll be able to do anything whatsoever in the mid-game. So if he doesn't hit the Aldor Truthseeker or some kind of card draw, this is still looking like a very, very good position for Dimitri.
Yeah, and even Dimitri's bad plays look pretty decent here. Yeah. He's got so many options available to him. But I think this is the best one, obviously. Just get that Crab Rider down and try and end the game before it begins if Crane doesn't get a buff here.
Yeah, absolutely right. There is essentially no way here for Crane to clear off the Crab Rider on this turn, no matter how good his hand was. And so, as we can see, he does the best he can by damaging it as much as possible. But the Hand of Adal is still just so good here for Dimitri.
Yeah, the numbers just work out absolutely perfect to ruin Crane's day. He's going to have to use the Pen Flingers to clear this up most likely next turn, which seems wrong. He'll probably play the Pride to try and actually do something. But it's not a pretty sight at all, because he's scared if there's another buff, which there is, he is just going to eat so much damage. And it may just be a case of play the Pride and hope he doesn't have the buff.
Yeah, you just have to play the Pride here. As scary as it is, this is pretty much the only play, I think, for Crane. On the other side, though, I think you can get away with not playing the Pride, right? Like, Penflinger plus Hand of Adal is I think, good enough to eclipse the very strong on-curve play of Salets.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. You just couldn't ask for a better start here. It looks like you're going to get this one done before Crane can get any sort of response mounted.
Well, I mean, we say that, but this is often what happens in the Paladin. Despite it being a fairly unreactive deck for the most part, it always seems to reach an equilibrium most of the time. It's rare for one player to truly run away with the game right at the start, and we have quite clearly reached that position now. Crane has drawn quite a few cards. Dimitri has got himself a reasonable advantage in the damage that he's dealt, the cards that he's drawn with Hand of Adal, but it's far from game-winning here, especially given that Crane has now found the beating heart of the mid-game for Libram Paladin in Aldor Truthseeker.
Yeah, one of the most important cards in the whole deck. Interesting here that Dimitri's chilling on these first days because he's considering playing the Pride. You can't just rip them out and then end up with nothing for the Pride to get you. You've got to sort of time it right, but you don't save them for anything else. You save the card for Abbess and stuff previously to avoid that, but there's no reason to not play them now.
I mean, it's just Penflinger activations, I think, for the most part. Like, I'm looking very possibly here at just Salets, Penflinger plus First Day of School. Alternatively, it could just be a Devout Pupil, because that is obviously significantly more immediate stats on board. But it's one of the things that you, I think, fairly quickly come to realize about the deck is just that you can get so much more later on. Guaranteeing your card draw is just more important because the broken things you do in the late game almost always eclipse the the reasonable tempo plays in the mid game.
Yep. God, here's all this stuff, and both got the double flinger. It's really weird. Obviously, a super important card, but you don't really want the double flinger this early. It can just get kind of annoying for you to just keep flinging things. It's great card advantage, but it's not particularly great tempo.
Absolutely right, which is... I mean, there's the clear on this turn, right, with either Devout Pupil Broom or Salet's Broom Penflinger, and then I guess First Day of School.
You really hate to play the Pupil for 4, but there's not a lot else going on.
I mean, you just hate to play Broom, I think, is the main thing. Like, Broom is the tempo swinger in the matchup, and going for tempo Broom just to clear off a 4-6, I think on balance I would probably prefer just developing a whole bunch of stuff onto the board here for Dimitri, and then letting his opponent trade in. Or go face.
Quite a tough turn, to be fair. I'm just curious at this point to see which way he decides to go with it. He's going to make the stuff.
I like this a lot. I think this is a very good understanding of the matchup, that this 4-6, while its effect is scary, the actual body itself is not necessarily needed to be cleared off the board.
Yeah, these things basically have rush anyway, because Crane can't attack all of them.
Yeah.
So the 30 health means that the 4 damage is irrelevant, even if it's buffed. So just being long-term mana efficient with that pupil. Yeah, so Crane can start picking away at this board, but he's going to face it again next turn anyway. That's his problem here.
Right.
So it's kind of pointless.
Let me think.
Yeah, I mean, which is, like, you know, there are multiple ways that you can go about it here. Like Aldor Truthseeker Broom, again, it's the strongest play that you can make on this turn, but it's using up a Broom. That's a big deal at any point in the matchup. Aldor Truthseeker plus Penflinger to kill off the Salet's Pride. It's a good play, but you've used up a Penflinger then. I think they're just too valuable later on in the game. So I am kind of considering the play of going for just Aldor Truthseeker on its own, but instead he goes for a Tempo Librum of Justice, getting very little benefit out of the actual effect of the spell itself. Really just using it to bounce back the Penflinger and get the weapon.
Does kind of force Dimitri to have the same, though. Because these 4-5, 4-6 now are pretty dominating presence on the board.
Yeah.
And I think Crane knows that he's in trouble, so make something that looks a bit scary and hope Dimitri doesn't have the answer is what he's gone for here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still a little skeptical of this line, actually, if I'm honest. I was leaning towards the idea of just playing the Aldor Truthseeker and leaving up the Salet's Pride, which, yes, allows a 3-1 to get a very strong trade up into a bigger minion. But that Librum of Justice with 2 Penflingers and a Broom in hand was a guaranteed clear on anything that Dimitri played for the rest of the game.
Yeah, let's have a look how that one turns out. Dimitri, obviously it's hard to tell with no cam, but he seems quite hesitant about a lot of his plays here, sort of picking up cards and putting them back down and so on.
Yeah.
I guess that's what Paladin does to people. But also, I mean, Dimitri has played several Masters Tours, gone sort of 5 and 4 in 3 of them in a row, I think.
Okay.
But probably hasn't had any airtime, and he's up against somebody who is one of the scariest names to play against in Hearthstone, almost, Crane. He's kind of a very well-known player.
Now I think we're approaching the point where Broom does become good enough here, because being able to utilize the Divine Shield to tank 5 damage by rushing it into the Devout Pupil there is a huge tempo swing, and also you can just get yourself some immediate card draw on the effect of Loot Hoarder if you wanted to rush that into one of the 1/1s as well. He
can double pen first and then put his 4/6 in to sort of protect his...
That's true. He could also then heal his own Truthseeker instead, if he wanted to go about it that way, instead of healing his face, which is an interesting line I hadn't really looked at.
He's being very protective of this second Broom, but this is definitely the time to go for it.
Yeah.
So it does clear up the board nicely. One thing I did find, if you want to get better at this deck, play Battlegrounds. All your ordering becomes so much better with things like Penflingers. It's like, oh, I've got 2 mana. I will use that then.
As a 5k Battlegrounds player, I will take your word for it, Neil.
I mean, I'm super good, me. Yeah. But yeah, it really helps with all the ordering and stuff. But that probably is because I'm a 5k Legend Hearthstone player or something. Who knows? And
yep, things getting very awkward now. All of a sudden, there is no Libram of Justice on the other side, no Lord Barov on this side either. You know, you're kind of approaching the territory of like Loot Hoarder and then Penflinger it, just to draw a card and hope to hit the Barov so that you can clear things off. As horrible as that sounds.
Yeah, one thing that Crane has done well in this game is sort of play to the top of his deck and hope it's there a lot of the time. It looked absolutely grim for him, but those same 3 cards have been there for a while now. It's just, okay, I'm going to trust my deck to behave itself. And that's something you have to do in all decks, but particularly this one when your hand looks pretty bad, because most of your deck is good cards.
And there are a lot of good draws here for Crane. I think the Libram of Hope that he just found is quite undeniably one of those good draws in order to keep the tempo rolling. Because even with a card being drawn off the Loot Hoarder here, it's a tough one. You are arguably overextending. There are 3 very strong board clears in the Justices and the Barov. He's going to get 2 chances at them, but if he doesn't get it, you just win.
He's seen the Penflingers, Crane. He knows surely one of those clears would have been used if Dimitri had it.
Yeah.
So Crane might be really tempted here to just put a lot of this damage to face and set up a lethal and say have it or lose.
It gets even more complicated.
So terrifying, it could be more safe, obviously.
Yeah, the Blessing of Wisdom, of course, means on the other side, though, that if he wants to attack with this 8/8 to get the extra face damage through, he's giving another chance at finding the Libram of Justice, as was found, or the Lord Barov. He is, in the end, I think, just going absolutely all in here, attacking with the 8/8, playing another one here, saying, you clearly don't have the removal in hand, you have to draw it off the top. And Dimitri is able to call his bluff here and finds the Libram off the top, which is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I think Crane did this correctly. You don't have to necessarily put the second 8/8 down, but I like this. It's just, I kill you. Although, there's only 10 cards left in deck for Dimitri, and well, there were 13, and he's drawn 3.
It's still a little awkward, I guess you could say, admittedly. He has to go like Penflinger to clear off the Divine Shield. And then Libram, Penflinger. It's not the cleanest clear I've ever seen, I will say.
Yeah, it doesn't leave you with like some sort of overwhelming board like Rogue might if it cleared this board. Just have your own line of 2020s facing back the other way straight away or something.
Yeah. What is the best way to go about this? Like you could, if you sacrifice a Penflinger, this is a very easy clear because you can just go like Penflinger, Timberwolf, Broomstick, and you have yourself a full clear.
Yeah, you can't save the broom until after you're dead either.
Yeah, exactly. Crab Rider plus buff allows him to clear off 2 of these minions, the Truth Seeker and one of the 8/8s.
So there was a bingo for something like this, I think. That somebody plays a spell on a Penflinger that then ends up just bouncing the Penflinger deliberately.
Right.
Amongst the many Twitter threads. Not the best pickup for Crane, though.
Yeah, is it worth it to Penflinger his own Loot Hoarder here?
I do think so.
Probably, yeah.
I hate it, but you've got a good chance of picking up a spell. He'll have the deck tracker as well available to him, telling him exactly what those chances are.
Okay.
Yeah, and now he can just get going properly.
It's not awful. Just play the extra Penflinger, get a bit of extra damage through you. I mean, last turn you were demanding that they have the board clear. Now you're demanding that they have the healing. Obviously, for Dimitri, it's pretty likely that he finds a Libram of Hope at some point soon because he only has 10 cards left in his deck. A fifth of his deck is just Librams of Hope at this point.
Fifth of his deck is Librams of Hope. That just sounds completely terrifying.
Well, be terrified because it's true.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah. Just chipping away.
Okay.
Quite there. Didn't play it on the Crab Rider for ready for next turn, or play the Crab Rider and then save it ready for next turn, which was a shame for him.
Yeah, I think he didn't get the Crab Rider down. Not the end of the world, though. And Dimitri, again, right on time, just when he needed it, finds the Libram of Hope there. Perfect way to make sure that no kind of lethal damage whatsoever can come through.
I will say, Crane looks the most intense I've seen him for like 2 years. He actually, I mean, he's going really strongly in a Masters Tour. Of course he's intense, but like he actually looks like he wants it, which is the old Crane.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, Crane, you know, he does have a fairly sarcastic personality. He often will hide behind the facade that he, you know, will mock the things that he loves the most. We all have seen Crane's Twitter, but like you say, he is a competitor. He's a deeply competitive person at heart, be it in Hearthstone. I think he also plays a lot of tennis, or at least follows it very closely, and it means a lot to him, you can tell, as he has dedicated quite a sizable portion of his life at this point to pursuing competitive Hearthstone.
Yeah, I forget that 7 years for most of you young'uns is quite a good chunk
while.
of how long you've been around, yeah.
Yeah. It's getting less so all the time, but it's still a chunk.
Yeah, you'll be half my age soon, then you'll be double my age even soon. I'm sure that math checks out, okay, that's official.
Okay, what was got?
So many fleas.
Yeah. The top as well. First day of school, Libram of Wisdom. Okay, these are reasonable cards to have found at this point. He needs a lot of APM if he's going to fit in all these flings to kill off everything here.
Yeah, he's on an American server as well. He did get it in there, but playing from Europe on an American server is just that extra second of lag if you're not careful.
Yeah, you have to imagine that he would quite happily there have played Libram of Wisdom on nothing, or on the Penflinger, sorry, basically deleting it so that he could get the Penflinger back in hand, because losing a Penflinger in this matchup, it stings. It stings a lot.
But he did use his experience there to make sure he was talking to himself. Basically, I think he was telling himself, look, what are the important things in these 5 seconds I have to do? And, you know, kill the minion and lose your Penflinger was the lesser of the two evils.
Well, obviously, Truthseeker into Libram of Judgment is something I'm looking at fairly strongly here, just to get the damage rolling, start threatening your opponent a little bit more seriously. But I guess with this line, you do have to actually have a clear available for the Penflinger. You can't just be leaving that up. In which case he could swing first and then equip the Libram of Judgment just to bank the mana. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, when open deck list, you don't have to worry about anything crazy happening like you might have to worry about on ladder. You just play the cards out there.
Yeah.
Get them all ready to go. Save the mana. Nice.
Oh, you know, he's not letting on by his expression, but I think Crane is... You'd have to... have to imagine that it's starting to catch on that this is not looking too fantastic for him anymore. Obviously, there is the very low health total that Dimitri is working with, but that Libram of Judgment, the life steal that comes on a 5-attack weapon, it heals you up so fast. Whew.
It's just a race to Liadrin at this point.
Pretty much, and Liadrin means a lot more to Dimitri than it does to Crane at the moment, purely because of that second Penflinger going down. Like, that is such a big difference in this matchup. It really can't be overstated.
Yeah, and Crane did very well just to keep himself composed there, because streaming Crane would probably have had a bit of a tantrum there.
Indeed.
But yeah, here comes the chunky damage. Not many of these turns in 30. It's probably lethal next turn with almost any pickup for Dimitri here.
A reasonable enough draw, absolutely there for Crane. It's just, again, another point where, hey, 2 Penflingers here would make this an awful lot easier to clear all of this up. And again, you know, I'm not saying this to rag on Crane. He knows that it was a mistake there in the end. It's just to demonstrate how important it is in the matchup overall to make sure you're spending as much mana as possible each turn.
Yeah, he just got a little bit behind on the server lag, and and the server lag isn't huge or anything. I'm not putting the server lag down, but he just got a little bit behind. You're used to play on EU so long, and then you play on Americas for a little while, and there's just this tiny bit of lag that messes with your instincts.
Reporting for duty.
It's not quite at the level of APM Priest, for which a special client had to be made just to practice the combos so that you wouldn't mess it up in game. But sometimes with all these pen flingers, it can approach that level of APM.
Yeah. Especially as the pen flinger animation is slightly painfully long.
Yeah.
And I've always defended animation times. I like the fact that it's a video game that has animations, but the pen flinger one's long.
Yeah, it can sting in a competitive environment for sure.
That's the E-play, which sort of gets stuck somewhere across your face and just sort of sits there momentarily.
Yeah, very nicely done here by Dimitri, just maximizing the pen flinger usage every single turn, meaning that there is essentially forcing healing from Crane at this point as well.
Still got the Priest Mirror potentially to come. If you thought this one was a bit drawn out.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly enough, I feel like the Priest Mirror can kind of be quicker most of the time now, because this deck, it just so perfectly cancels each other out. Like, you just kill everything the opponent does, and the pen flingers, and like, obviously this is an outside, an edge case, because Lady Liadrin has not been found for the entire game for both players.
Yeah.
Like, it's bottom 10, maybe bottom 5 for both players here. But Priest nowadays, like, you just kill your opponent. It's a very tempo-heavy deck. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of kill them slowly, though. Like, the tempo... Well, we'll talk about it a bit more if Priest Mirror comes up, I guess. But the tempo kind of stays with one person for 14 turns sometimes, as they just tick along that damage. But yeah, Dimitri taking the 1-0 lead. Reminder, though, they're both 4-0. Going to be very happy whatever the result at the end of tonight.
They are, undeniably, but you perfectly laid it out at the start. The winner of the Paladin Mirror, it feels like in these series, puts themselves off to such a strong advantage, because they just don't have to deal with playing the Libram Paladin as, at the start, despite many protestations from players and casters alike as to the power of Libram Paladin. It has not thus far been demonstrated this weekend. And so for Dimitri now, with just the Warrior and the Priest left over, with that being, I believe, a Bomb Warrior as well, it's looking all right for him. I think the Bomb Warrior should be in a pretty decent spot. As to whether it can take down the Token Druid from Crane is not a matchup that I've seen all too much.
Especially this Token Druid, it's not your regular Token Druid.
Yeah, exactly. His version running no Gibbling. It's the kind of spell version instead that runs Guru the Might Tree as the one soul minion in the deck. It's a cool deck for sure, even if not especially popular. But I mean, as we're just seeing the highlights here for Dimitri, it was a brutal start for him, losing all that health right from the get-go, as Crane managed to so nicely lock down that mid game. But in the end, it was not only the the lack of the required APM from Crane to be able to keep a second pen flinger alive. It was also just the fact that Dimitri had the extra damage, had the extra healing, locked things out, and got himself in a great position in the rest of this series with, as we were saying, just the Bomb Warrior and the Highlander Priest left to win with, two of the best decks in the metagame.
Yeah, and if he wins this match, he would have equaled his best score in Masters Tours, I believe. I think his best score is 5-4, which he's done multiple times. So that'd be nice for him. Just go to bed. I've got my 5 wins. Do what I like tomorrow now. Win 5 more would be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you can go all the way, you would definitely be much happier with that, especially taking down such strong competitors as Crane, as we've been saying. I'm not entirely sure for Crane what the weak point will be. Up against the Warrior, I can definitely see the Priest struggling a fair bit. It's the classic interaction between a Bomb Warrior and any Highlander deck, where once 2 bombs have been shuffled in, all the Highlander effects have been shut down, and also just that Priest can just die to the aggression that Bomb Warrior throws turn after turn. If you're not finding the strong weapon removal, the healing as well, you're just going to end up going down to the incessant damage that Wrench Caliber provides.
Yeah, I want to know how Crane gets out of this one. Perhaps he doesn't, but I don't know. Something tells me, and this is live as far as we're concerned, so I have no future information. I just got a feeling that Crane will find a way to get through this, but I don't know how, looking at the lineup right now.
Okay, well, you got to go with your gut sometimes. I respect your intuition. Quite right. But I do think that Crane, you know, while we can believe in him as, you know, I think pretty inarguably the stronger player, the more seasoned player between him and Dimitri. Not to say that, of course, Dimitri could not reach the same level as Crane, where he did put in the necessary time to reach that level. You know, Crane is a legendary Hearthstone player amongst the community at this point, and he often finds a way to pull it out of the bag. But it is going to be undeniably an uphill climb as we look at what his next deck could be, getting this next one ready for the game 2 of this series.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Druid, I think. I've seen fairly little of any token Druids, although they're not much difference to any token Druid you've ever seen before over the last sort of 5 years. But I would like to see how Crane's goes in action, but we are going to see Crane back on the Paladin, taking on the Priest. Must-win game, I feel, for Crane this one.
It would be a very brutal loss for sure. He's looking much, much less likely to be able to take the win if he does. And already we're seeing interesting hands from both players. Obviously from Crane, this is the juice. You have Coin, Crab Rider, Hand of Adal, even Blessing of Wisdom. I think you would very possibly keep here to just juice up the card draw. But from Dimitri on the other side, it's probably not a keep in the starting hand as he did throw away, but Ilusha is, again, and as in so many matchups, one of the real crucial turning points where you can steal your opponent's hand, dump the pen flingers, and just basically delete their endgame plan.
Crane's just, he's got the look of it, I'm for keeping this, it better be right on their face. He doesn't want to, but he knows he's got to.
I mean, what he's saying is, no Zephyrus, no Zephyrus, no Zephyrus. Yeah. Please don't hungry crab me, I am begging you.
It's so nutty if he doesn't get crabbed here. Like the first 3 turns are just mapped out for any Hearthstone player who's got a moment with, you know, Bob in their spare time, just to have a look. Anybody will work this out on day 1 of Hearthstone.
To be fair, like Dimitri did keep a card which was not Zephyrus in the starting hand, which, you know, obviously is not wrong. There are many good cards that you can find that are not just the Highlander cards at the start, but Palm Reading is, I think you could definitely argue, not one of the premium early game cards, so I was a little bit surprised to see that kept, as opposed to just digging for Mind Flayer Karj, Sethic Veil Weaver, Zephyrus as well, as I've said many times already. As you know, we can see here, Palm Readings is just not that good here in the early game. He very possibly is just going to deviate over to Lazul instead.
Yeah, Lazul not that fantastic though in this matchup. It's just a little bit small. And it's stealing small things that don't have the synergy that are in your deck. That's the thing. The whole thing with Paladin is your cards aren't that great. They just have great synergy together.
Yeah.
So Priest stealing your stuff isn't particularly good.
I must consider.
Yeah, Blessing of Wisdom. Okay, I can get on board on that. You're, I think, probably going to be looking at targeting it on one of the opposing minions, very possibly the opposing Crab Rider, which could be Blessing of Wisdom from both sides. Drawing cards for everyone.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if they both... Oh, that's ridiculous. It's both players just drawing all the crab they can draw.
So, obviously, Crane wants to just dump the Salit's Pride here and kind of accept that it's going to be cleared off because it's the most effective way to draw. But I guess with this line, he is able to, in a way, get both sides of the coin here, where he is drawing 2 cards on this turn, much like Salit's Pride would, and also potentially clearing off the Madame Lazul. How he goes about it, though, is very interesting because you're supposed to play Broom here. It's the less important card, but he knows that he knows that Ilusha exists. By which merit you should maybe just go for Penflinger because it's going to be deleted later anyway.
But then if he doesn't draw the Ilusha, then
right, you've just done its job
for
for
a lot of damage from your own hand.
It was a tough one.
Yeah, Crane just exhaling quite strongly there. It's like, oh, it's been a long day. I'd like to get this one sorted.
Just great draw, though, in the end there for Dimitri. Clearing off the minions, stopping the card draw, most importantly, because if that had kept going, it could have just been lights out on the spot for Crane. I mean, it's already looking very, very good for him, make no mistake.
One of those irritating turns you get with this deck, and this is kind of the weakness of the deck, and always has been. Somewhere you have a very mediocre turn. Now, if you're winning or if you're flooding your opponent and they're not dealing with it, that's fine. But against Priest, this is okay, but it's still a very mediocre turn compared to what the rest of the deck can do.
Yeah, it is. And oh my god, Dimitri just wants to throw down the Ogremancer so badly. Just ignore everything that's happening on the other side. I guess you can start with Draconic Studies just to maybe find something better, but nothing feels good here. Playing the Ogremancer into a Divine Shield minion is disastrous.
As is this. What do you even try and take here?
I think Proto Drake, like, you know, you can close your eyes and hope that Brightwing gives you the absolute dream legendary minion. But I think for the most part, Proto Drake is just the better card to throw down later on.
I think he's decided there is no later on. That's the problem.
Is it really that bad that we have to go for a Hail Mary Brightwing?
I don't think he's necessarily going for the Hail Mary. It's more, do I ever play this card?
Yeah, that's fair, I suppose. Yeah.
I think he's just going for, this is a 3-2, not necessarily this is the Hail Mary. It's just a card he can play.
Okay, yeah, I can buy that.
I'm not saying it's good, by the way. I'm just saying it's a thing that he can do. But like you said, like this feels so bad. Difficult choices for Crane on how to deal with this or whether to deal with it at all. You don't really want to just ignore it, but it's not really doing any harm while it's just sitting there as a 3/7 if you don't activate it. So
yeah, I mean, the fact that you have a Divine Shield in play right now means that even if it is buffed, it's not that bad because it's just going to bash into the Divine Shield anyway. And given that you then have Barov or Libram of Justice in hand, you have thereafter a couple of ways if you wanted to clear off this Ogremancer, no matter how big and scary it gets.
Playing with a cheeky hero power just to keep the value coming a little bit.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's a pretty good draw, I suppose, from Dimitri. He now has a turn of Holy Nova Apotheosis, and then just attacking in. He has a board clear and keeps a sizable minion in play.
Yeah. And the fact it's all ground to a bit of a halt is really good news for Dimitri as well.
Yeah.
Or at least fairly good news. I think really is overstating it, but it's some good news.
I wonder.
Okay, another way to go about here, instead using the Hysteria, hoping that will... Oh yeah, of course, draw him a whole bunch of cards in the meanwhile.
Oh,
Very
wow.
Nice combo here.
Hadn't clicked that was going to happen at all, I've got to admit.
Yeah, very, very nicely done. It's an interaction that I forget exists every time I see it. But yeah, nicely done. Getting the card draw rolling for him here is a big old deal.
And suddenly this thing's going to get hard to deal with. I mean, it's not because of how Paladin turns everything into 1 health, but
Yep.
it means you're going to have to use one of your prime cards, and Priest has more where this came from.
And now it looks like high time to finally actually deal with the Ogremancer instead of letting it churn out skeletons turn after turn.
But the game has reset. Dimitri's back to 30. Crane's not really doing much pressure. He has got the Liadrin though, so if he can get a few Librams cast, maybe he gets the repeated Libram train going before any silence effects happen, maybe he can get it done still. There's a lot of ifs in that sentence.
There's a lot of ifs.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Ooh, okay. Not doing anything too juicy quite yet, but this hand is starting to come together with some more powerful options for Dimitri, like just Galakrond on this turn is acceptable if you wanted to start churning out the value with the hero power.
You know what would be really good next turn?
What?
A Proto Drake.
Ah, you're not wrong. I mean, it would be really good this turn, right? Because you could just slam it as a 7 cost because it would have been reduced by 1. It would have been a lot better, actually, it turns out.
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on that because I actually thought it was wrong, but looking at it, taking it would have been really, really tasty.
Yeah. I mean, he gets to play Gandly instead, which is, you know, it's not as good, but it's not bad. And to be fair, you know, this is obviously being results-oriented. There are other worlds where there was more pressure from Crane. Maybe he wouldn't have had the clears, and he would have had to have just gone for the tempo of a cheaper dragon. But I still do stand by my point that overall...
No, looking at how the game played out, it looks like he was often going to get to this position. So the Proto Drake was going to be just better. And he never got to play the Brightwing as any sort of tempo defender or whatever. So, you know, when you see it unfold, you can usually make a decision as to whether it was right or not, even if it's being results orientated to some degree.
Let me think.
Well, he's got himself a Aldor Truth Seeker, which is a nice start. Really now, all this hand is asking for is a single Libram of Wisdom. Once he finds that, he can throw down a whole bunch of minions, give them rush, play the Libram 4 or 5 times on that turn, and then he's got Liadrin so that he can then get those all back again. He's got the Pen Flingers. The whole engine starts going off then very, very nicely, and he's able to get huge amounts of damage over the next few turns, most importantly before Ilusha hits the board. But before he can do that, he needs that single 1 copy out of 2 of a Libram of Wisdom.
Yeah, and then he does need 2 or 3 turns to not get Eluciate in the... You know, you mentioned it's there, but it's on the way. It's somewhere in that deck. It's marching towards the top of the deck, because it always does. So Crane will be in a hurry to get all this done.
Okay.
Extra Brightwing. How good would the second Proto Drake have been?
Yeah, I think by far the strongest tempo play you can make is Kaj Holy Nova. I guess starting with Renew just to spend the mana. But I mean, even then, I'm not necessarily convinced that you're actually supposed to play the Renew here, because you might want to save it for when you know more precisely what spell you're after.
Yep, no, don't. I'm not in a hurry to play this Renew. Like you say, maybe spend all your mana is a school that he's from, but as priest, I don't think it's quite so important that you do that.
Yeah, I'm very much on board with this line. And so for Crane, he knows that he is quite decidedly behind on board now, and he is going to stay that way until he starts the combo rolling, as I said, with Libram of Wisdoms over and over again from Lady Liadrin. Like, there's always the possibility to just go Liadrin to give Hand of Adults to increase your card draw if things get really desperate, but quite obviously Crane really does not want to do that if he doesn't have to.
And it's hard, it's weird for Dimitri this, because obviously he's in the driver's seat, but he doesn't really have a way to press the advantage particularly hard. He can do some bits and pieces, but nothing stands out as thrilling or insta-win when you feel like you've got this, you know, absolutely at your mercy.
So if he was
doesn't do that.
We could see Dimitri starting with Renew here, because you have the possibility to hit Shadow Madness to steal the Sallet's Pride, as well as getting Wave of Apathy, or Inner Fire for that matter, in order to reduce the attack so that you could steal the Sallet's Pride with Cabal Acolyte. But instead he's starting with the Brightwing. Instead gets a pretty blooming good legendary, all things considered, in Madame Lazul. It's in your deck. It can't be that bad.
I was just thinking, I was about to make the counterpoint that, you know, you always want a card that starts your deck unless it's Madame Lazul right now.
Oh, really?
No, it's fine, obviously.
I think it's pretty good.
Starts your deck.
I mean, hey, he could get Lady Liadrin from the other side. That's fantastic in Priest.
Yeah, it really is. Well, we're obviously looking at trying to weave in a
Libram of Justice, sorry, on this turn so that he can bring everything down to 1 health, clear the board. The Ogremancer makes that a little bit awkward, but Penflingers obviously can bypass the taunt, so it's really not that big of a deal here. I think this is just a pretty easy clear turn from Crane.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have much choice. I think the reason he's so deep in the tank, though, is this is going nowhere.
Yeah, that's true.
I wonder.
Like, is there a way I can just stop having to kill my opponent's stuff every turn and slowly run out of resources? Where's my Libra, my other one, my good one, the Wisdom?
I guess actually, having said an easy clear turn, and when you actually look at it, it's not quite so simple because he doesn't have a second spell to bounce the Penflingers back to hand, so he really doesn't want to go Libram double Penflinger here at all. Which is why he's going about it completely differently, getting the Libram of Judgment down for a 5-3 weapon, instead just chunking through these minions the old-fashioned way.
You have to do that again soon.
Looked like he was trying to go for the trade at the end there, but
yeah, he missed that
before it was possible. I mean, it's debatable whether it's even better because you don't really want to give your opponent the 4/6 to attack with straight away.
Yeah, I mean, he may have just sort of aborted the mission, but I think he missed it.
Well, Lady Liadrin, I mean, even if it literally just gives you a renew and nothing else, which we know it's going to give more than that,
yeah,
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, he's probably paying decent attention to the Libram of Justice just in case, because he has got that Pyromancer in his hand. It'd be kind of a nice way of clearing the entire board if needed.
Wow.
Your mind is not your own.
Interesting.
But I'm sort of with you on this one.
I don't know. I just liked the extra value that it got you because, you know, as I've said time and again, you have plenty of threats that you can throw down with Galakron every turn. But what you really need access to is ways to heal up more, remove more, which I think you potentially could have got with Lady Liadrin. It could get you extra renews, another Apotheosis. It's not insane, but I mean, this Libram of Justice is not especially powerful either.
Yeah, I wonder if he did just feel, oh, I've got the Pyro, let's go for the mini combo.
I think the tilt may finally be starting to get to Crane here. Yeah, it only ever takes so long. As, I mean, you know, he is pretty justified at this point of being a bit upset, as many players have been in terms of their Paladin draw, because he really just needs a single Libram of Wisdom, as I have said, to kick this hand into overdrive. Now that he's used the Broom, obviously it will take a little bit longer to get the necessary number of Librams played.
Yeah.
Or I mean, even then, just like a Libram of Hope. There are so many good draws in the deck at this point that I'm not even sure Libram of Wisdom is necessarily what he's looking for, considering how good some of the draws are.
Dimitri just decided he wants to win this game, get it over with. Like, this
that is going to win
just
this game.
I'm going to kill you move.
And he got some pretty premium minions as well. Another Ogremancer, a Gandling as well, upgrading any minion he plays pretty much.
Doing it all right, by the way he's doing it, stopping those Wisdoms when they do turn up from being able to trade in immediately, just slowing everything down. So whilst the temptation is, wow, he's been in the face twice, well, the only way you lose this is the way Derek has been describing, which is Crane gets minions, then he attacks him with a broomed up Wisdom, blah, blah, blah. And Dimitri's just not going to let that happen.
And the other thing to bear in mind is that while I've been saying Crane has a lot of good draws from here on in, Dimitri is an Elusha away from pretty much just locking out the game with playing both of these Penflingers from the opponent's hand.
And Crane's got the resigned look on his face anyway at this point.
Yeah, I think he knows that this is approaching a concede very, very rapidly.
It always amuses me watching streamers on broadcast. They just talk to themselves the whole time. It's always the streamers. Because they're so used to sort of talking out loud while they play.
That'll do. That'll do, Pig.
This looks like a mismatch suddenly. Okay then.
Whoa. Do you just jam Murazond? It can give you a billion Penflingers, obviously, and I mean, I guess Hand of Adal, Libram of justice as well. Like,
I mean, I just want an 8/8 on the board.
yeah, exactly.
It sets up lethal.
You can't really play the other one.
It's just, yeah, just straight up, those numbers are good right now.
Crane appears to be entering the 4th dimension in terms of how unlucky he's getting right now. His expressions are something else.
Poor Crane.
Poor Crane, indeed. There it is, Libram of Wisdom, but quite decidedly too late at this point. Almost as if to taunt him, to know that, yep, it is in your deck, but you just couldn't draw it in any kind of a timely fashion.
We've entered eye roll territory now. That's it. The 4th dimension has been crossed, the eyes are rolled, and I think that the concede is coming.
Yeah, this one is well and truly over.
And that gets the priest out of the way, which, you know, was the maybe this loser's deck. And now the bomb warrior remains, and somehow Crane's going to get through that with 3 decks.
Right. And it's going to be very, very difficult. You know, make no mistake about it. And Crane knows this better than anyone, how unlikely it is that he goes on to win this series here. But having said that, you know, the Druid undeniably has the ability to destroy the absolute nuts, no removal on the other side, or you throw down a Soul of the Forest, Warrior can't get through it, and you just steamroll the game. The Priest obviously can just destroy all the weapons. Maybe the Warrior doesn't draw anything. All of these matchups are very winnable from Crane, but when you put all 3 of them together, it kind of compounds to be a lot worse than you may even initially suspect.
So he did actually continue for one more turn.
Making a big mistake.
Yeah, indeed.
You're not wrong, Simon. I think that says it all.
Do we need to speak? Can we just watch Crane's face for the next, like, minute or something? Just on full screen? No, we don't need to see the game.
You don't pick the ones.
How does he blink so angrily? I've never seen anyone with that mastery of the facial expression to convey so much with just an angry blink.
I've not noticed this before, but I'm intrigued now. Yeah, there you go. I'm upset. I do like the picture on his wall, though. I've always liked that picture. Have you seen it close up?
What is it, like a woodland scene?
It's a lot of people walking all in the same direction. There's like one guy turning off and going a different way on his own.
Ah, is that the guy who doesn't put ooze in his deck?
Yeah, that's the guy who doesn't put ooze in his deck. That's the guy who doesn't draw wisdom for 23 turns.
Indeed. All right. Any 1-drops that can save us here. Broom is no longer good enough. Yeah. Wand Thief, maybe, you know, and then you discover another spell, being very generous, coming up with words and things that maybe Crane can do. None of it is enough, though.
Click
and
to continue.
We do end up with a 2-0 start to this series for Dimitri. Things looking very, very good for him, as we've said many times here with the Bomb Warrior. And, I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. This is looking very unlikely that Crane will be able to go the whole way and pull things back here. But either way, you know, no matter how this series shakes out, I would be happy. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Crane, and I'd be very excited if he was to go all the way this time and get through to the top 16, maybe even further in this Masters Tour. But at the same time, DimitriKazov, he's another one of these up-and-coming players who we haven't seen all too much from. Getting a big win here it just means so much to these players who still are yet to get that big recognition.
Yeah, and it's not like he's a nobody. Like, he's got, like I say, at least 3. I'm just trying to check it out now. At least 3 5/4s in Master Tours. Yeah, that sounds... Oh, what do you mean? At least 3 5 and 4s? Well, you've got to start somewhere. Yeah, he's played in 4. His first one was 1 and 3. And then he's gone for 3 5/4s in a row. You know, that's 3 positive records in this company in a row. So he's not bad at this game. And
absolutely.
Eventually you step up a level. Eventually you start thinking you belong there when you've had these sort of repeated 5/4s. And maybe this is the tournament where he breaks out. It definitely, that's how it happens. You just get comfortable suddenly.
Yeah, for sure. By no means was I trying to imply that DimitriKazov is not a very competent Hearthstone player. Merely that he's yet to break out in the public perception. Maybe back in Argentina he's more of a well-known personality, but in the global scene, still yet to get that big name recognition. But who knows? Taking down Crane333 is a pretty big stamp in your favor in terms of being able to become that big-time Hearthstone player that I'm sure he's looking to be. But again, it does have to come with just one victory from the Warrior. And taking a look at the version that he's gone for, it is indeed the version that we're seeing pop up more and more here, which is the non-risky skipper, non-Ankar version of the deck. One that was brought a lot last Masters Tour and turned out to be pretty horrendous given the abundance of aggressive decks like Hunter and Demon Hunter.
Yeah, but things have changed. The decks haven't changed, but the metagame surrounding them have to the large part. And Bomb Warrior, I think, in this tournament, somehow is just really well placed once again. I don't know how it keeps happening for 2 years straight with 25 cards the same, but it is just another tournament where it's a good deck.
It's just a good deck overall. I think we can quite safely say Bomb Warrior is pretty good at this point, no matter how you're going about building it. Who knows? Maybe in like the little mini meta game that we're going to get when the nerfed cards throughout Hearthstone's history are going to be reverted, but we don't have the core set rotation yet. Who knows? Maybe an 8-mana Elysiana will work its way back in to Bomb Warrior just to taunt us all for the final week. But thankfully here, Bomb Warrior has sped up a lot over its history in competitive Hearthstone.
Wouldn't it be great to just have that week, have a Masters Tour that week, then a Masters Tour the week after? Just all these different meta games we're going to get in the next month.
I mean, if it was an Elysiana meta, it would be the same Masters Tour the week after, because the games would still be going on. That is how devastating that card can be. But Crane finally giving us a taste of something a little bit different from his Paladin now, lining up the Highlander Priest, which, I've got to be honest, does not feel like his best chance, but it really doesn't matter how he cues them. He has to win with every single one from here on in.
Yeah, and I think this is a smart move. Purely because it's like the millionth tiebreaker how you do between 3-0 and 3-2. It never matters. And he can lose this if he's going to and go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, that sleep, the extra sort of 45 minutes, is worth more than the potential, I scared my opponent and got it back to 2-2 and then lost on my priest. So find out now if your priest is going to win. And if it is, then the extra time out of bed is probably worth staying up for.
Yeah, almost certainly. So an interesting start here for Crane, because obviously we are already looking at utilizing the coin to just go coin Twilight Drake on this turn for the biggest threat that you can throw down. But I do like that he's saving the coin for potentially a bigger threat later on. Par example, the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in hand that could come down as early as turn 8 now. And it just smooths out his curve a lot more cleanly, despite the fact that he's taking obviously a little bit of a hit in terms of immediate development.
The bombs, they begin already. Make them stop. Let's have a quick look at this lineup. I have seen quite a few goblins in the Bomb Warriors this weekend as well. Like people trying to go for turbo bomb, basically.
Yeah, I've seen that crop up a bit on ladder.
This one.
I'm definitely not convinced on it. I think that, you know, a lot of the power of the deck is really just the weapon swings that go face. You don't really necessarily need even more bombs. And I think just focusing on having everything that isn't weapons and weapon buffs being removal in your deck is a very strong way to play it, because you can just ignore everything your opponent does in terms of with your weapons, clear everything off with your removal spells, and then just chip them down over 5 or 6 turns.
What I'm wondering is if the people who brought that version were a little bit scared there might be oozes everywhere. Now, as it happens, there's just no oozes anywhere. We're hardly seeing them.
That's true.
But maybe they were scared of anti-weapon lineups in general being a thing, which, again, it doesn't seem to have happened. And that would be a little bit more compensation to make sure your bombs did get into their deck.
Speaking of using the coin once again, I think here that Crane was probably very heavily considering coin Ogremancer here, because it all of a sudden becomes pretty difficult to clear off. I guess the best option you would have would just be like Brawl and hope that it dies on the other side, but outside of that, it's going to keep chunking away for a lot of damage every single turn.
Oh, this owl is so annoying. We saw it earlier as well.
That's brutal.
Seems so good.
I guess the one benefit here for Crane would be that with that weapon gone, there is nothing left really for Dimitri to do. Full stop. It's purely removal on the other side, which is okay. You know, he can clear off a respectable amount here. Just trade into Coerce here. Leaves just a 2-2 on the other side that he can easily clear up. But he really, really wants to find the Horde Pillager, the extra weapon, the Corsair cache, any way at all to get an extra Wrench Caliber online.
Yeah. And I assume that that's what he will do, but...
Okay, yeah, this is fine. He will essentially be guaranteed a clear with Kobold Lackey on the Ogremancer.
Yeah.
In fact, he will be guaranteed it.
I kind of wish these cards that do like 5 lots of ping to your opponent or 10 lots of ping had some sort of miss chance.
What?
So that it wasn't always so quite obviously go clear.
So it just sometimes did 4 damage? Is that what you...
Yeah, it sometimes just shoots a damage off the side of the screen or something. Like, that wouldn't wind people up at all, would it?
The things we come up with at 3 AM, Lorinda.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of randomly whiffing, this Zephyrus is doing exactly that right now. 2 bombs in the deck, of course, means that this Zephyrus is just a Bloodfen Raptor right now. No effect is going to be happening whatsoever, and who knows how long that could be the case for. Maybe it's even to the point where we will see Cleric of Scales deliberately picking bomb to take 5 damage and then reactivate your Zephyrus again afterwards. Oh, tell me it's the play. No, he doesn't get it anyway. Boring.
Kind of cool. That would have been pretty amazing.
Homing it on Blastmaster Boom is definitely what Crane is going to be expecting on the other side, but actually, having said that, he just saw that Blastmaster Boom was in the deck, so I was going to say Soul Mirror might be what you'd be leaning towards to guarantee yourself a clear of everything that comes down, but he knows if there is going to be Blastmaster Boom, it would have to come off the top. So going for the Renew to find something else a little bit more impressive right now is, I think, perfectly reasonable from Crane.
And Dimitri's stuck in this slightly tedious zone at the moment where he's under no threat at all, but he's achieving nothing. Not necessarily a bad place to be, but he's going to be irritated. He wants to get this over with, obviously.
It's a pretty bad place to be in. Like, the longer this goes on, you're going to chip through all your removal. Priest has more threats than Warrior has removal. I think that's pretty clear when you factor in all the generation that Priest has access to. You know, and the way that you counter that as Warrior is you kill them so that they can't play out all their threats.
Yeah.
Which currently Dimitri is quite undeniably not doing.
Yeah, another turn or two, well, another turn of this, and he is going to start really struggling. But Crane's not been able to capitalize. He also hasn't really picked up any tempo of his own. So he's just going to straight up Zephyrus by the look of this.
Tempo Zeph?
Your wish is my suggestion.
Really? Oi, oi, oi.
Yeah, there's no look of surprise. It's not like he's done this by accident or tiredness or a late night sort of brain disaster. He has chosen to tempo this Zeph out.
Oh, what? Can this possibly be correct?
Even I'm not sure, but I'm not going to ask Crane if it was right. You can do that.
I mean, like, you know, it's Priest, so there's Raised Dead. He can get it back later on, maybe. But I don't know, Kev. I am very suspicious of this line. I mean, like, even if you say it doesn't activate for like until the final turn, like both the bottom cards in your deck are bombs, is it really worth just developing a 2-mana 3/2 there? It always does nothing.
There's the boom for Dimitri for next turn.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And almost more importantly, there's the Corsair cache for Dimitri, so he's able to get another Wrench Caliber, use it with Upgrade, get a whole bunch of bombs, Blastmaster Boom comes down. All of a sudden, a very wayward plan has gone into overdrive as Crane draws the perfectly timed bomb. Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is active. That had to happen now for him to start putting on anywhere near enough pressure to take down Dimitri.
Yeah, that drawing of the bomb will make the Blastmaster Boom significantly worse.
To the point where I think it's just going to be a straight-up deviation away from Blastmaster Boom. I much more heavily expect to see, Corsair Cache, Weapon, Upgrade, Shield Slam, or Coerce, whatever it may be. And he's able to quite handily deal with pretty much everything that Crane throws down, whilst getting the damage online as well. Oh, that minefield is disgusting. He can just go Wrench Caliber, Upgrade, Shield Slam the Alexstrasza, and then minefield as well to clear off the rest. It's perfect.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Really? This feels very wrong. Like his armor just gets eaten up now, right? Instead.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of using Shield Slam when you've got armor.
Me too.
Seems so much better than using it when you haven't, strangely enough.
Okay, well, I mean, either way, he is definitely going to be tanking more damage. Like, I guess that Minefield can be used to instantly activate the bombs if you're afraid of Plague of Death, would be the argument to hold on to Minefield, is the best thing I can come up with if you just want to go for an immediate kill, but still a little bit dubious of that.
Curse also a slightly irritating card to combo out and get rid of and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So he's got that done now. I think that might be... It's less about saving the minefield and more about just getting the awkwardness out of the way.
Fair enough.
I still don't think I agree with it, though.
That's another War Golem that Crane has just generated with Blastmaster Boom coming back off the Raised Dead.
Mozond? No, of course, Alexstrasza.
Yeah, that
would be crazy.
I mean, I was also very much looking at Myrmidon first card out there, but I guess on closer inspection, you want to go for the aggro here, and that could very easily just be a Pyroblast in the next few turns.
Yeah, killing your opponent seems really good in Hearthstone.
Indeed.
So, loads of ways of clearing. Most of them look kind of messy.
Yeah, they really do.
What now?
Especially as obviously he would like to just get the boom in play.
So if he goes... Like, he can go Shield Slam the Drake, swing into it, then Minefield, then Boom. He's able to clear the board and get Blastmaster Boom now. The reason why he would potentially not go for that, which it seems like he is very much not in the mood to do so right now, is I guess because, again, he wants to get that immediate activation on Blastmaster Boom with a Blade Storm or a Minefield so that the Boom bots actually die rather than being silenced by the Plague of Death.
Yeah, the advantage of the Brawl was he could just leave Crane with the Broom as well. There's a 1 in 3 chance of it just being good. So it's an interesting call, but it does make some sense as Crane just goes through the bombs again, but now he's getting a bit low.
It's getting very, very low. The Alexstrasza can help to an extent, but...
He doesn't want to do that, though. Can he win? Like, if he does that? He can't, because he plays into Blade Storm pretty horribly, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he can, especially if he throws down Nether and Darmus as well. It would just be a case of praying that there's no removal on the other side, which is... I mean, even when you've just seen a Brawl, it's so unlikely that they don't have a way to deal with at least some of the minions in play.
Maybe he has the read, I guess, that Dimitri was desperate with that Brawl, but it didn't feel desperate, I don't think.
Not especially, no.
It's easy for me to say I can see the hand, but you know.
Yeah. Okay, well, he's holding back on the Alexstrasza. He's kind of found a middle ground, like you were talking about, where, yes, he loses some healing because he didn't use Alexstrasza to target himself, but he does get the ability to use it offensively rather than defensively, and he's also pretty extended onto the board already. If Dimitri has a board clear, he's definitely going to use it right here.
Yeah, it kind of sets up lethal for Crane. Obviously, it's not going to work, but when you keep setting up those lethals, it does mean your opponent has to use resources. They don't have the option of saving them for a better spot.
Yeah.
Do try to keep yourselves alive.
Yeah, Barrow of Shield Slam or Barrow of Minefield, either way, I think, is getting the job done nicely on this turn.
Oh, is there going to be an accident here? He looked at the boom for a second there.
Yeah,
That's an accident.
That's an accident. That would be so incongruous with everything he's done so far. Yeah, sure.
Crane down to one Alex's. Oh, he's got the boom as well. 2 offensive threats of any sort.
Yeah, well, he plays his biggest thing that he can, I suppose, afford to play. He doesn't want to go for the Alexstrasza. I mean, it's essentially the same difference, given the healing that he can do with his hero power anyway.
The eye rolls are back, though.
Okay, you can wait one more turn here, I suppose. Galakron to get the hero power rolling. Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you don't want to, though. Ah, no, it's just damage. You can go with Blastmaster plus Blade Storm next turn, even with an extra thing available. It's still just looking like a great big dub here for Dimitri.
Really is. And this will be a nice one to go to bed on. 5-0, and you've beaten Crane 3-0 if he does pull this round. So, yeah, now the defensive Alex. Indeed.
Yeah, so I think at this point, given that he's quite clearly committed to the line of Blastmaster plus immediate destruction of his bombs, I don't want to see Blastmaster plus hero power. I would like to see Blastmaster plus Blade Storm or some other kind of hero power line. And the fact that he's going for this is absolutely fine, obviously. He doesn't clear off the Alexstrasza with just the Blade Storm. But overall, that is a more than good enough outcome. 8 damage through to face. Very, very juicy.
No more removal though, apart from the brawl. So I don't think it matters. I think Crane just sort of folds up here, but
yeah, like he can go for hero power first if he wants to kind of slowly and incrementally get that hero power healing back up, or he can go for hero power after and say, if I don't get a miracle card like Sandhoof Waterbearer, I don't even know what it could be to heal him up enough.
Yeah.
It's just going to be over.
yeah, there's unspeakable numbers of bombs in the deck. Actually, there's not a huge number of bombs, but there's plenty of bombs. And this could just be it.
It's not quite. Crane can get himself to the point where he's not just dead to hero power plus upgrade on the following turn. But he would have to play the Holy Nova to do so, which he does see. Okay.
Yeah, good for him. Good to see he's thinking clearly, even at this late stage. Oh dear.
That is going to be it, though. Weapon alone, regardless of bombs. Dimitri gets a 3-0 sweep over Crane. And, I mean, we can talk about maybe as far back as game 1, things that Crane could have done different with the, you know, the Paladin losing out on getting back the Penflinger. But for those last couple of games, his opponent just had better hands than him for the most part. There was very little that could have been done to fight back against those decks, even with the most creative play possible. Like, Tempo Zephyrus, I guess, is like the most suspicious part of that game. But even if he'd saved it, I think it's questionable to say if it would have saved him.
Yeah, as it happens, he drew the bomb the next turn, and the Zephyrus might have been active, and he might have got something. But that was also unlikely. I like the comment you made that it was actually just more likely that he plays the Zephyrus and gets a raised dead and gets it back and then uses it later than what happened. But
Kind of. I mean, that was kind of a nonsense point because then you may as well just like keep the Zephyrus and then get it back with Raised Dead later.
Do it twice.
But either way, it didn't make too much of a difference. I think we can agree because Dimitri had the weapons, had the draw, had the removal, had the Galakrond, every single piece falling perfectly into place. And he gets himself up to 5-0 at the end of the day here. I think we might have a couple of other matches from round 5, but for our players here, this is the final round of Swiss, and he has got to be feeling absolutely ecstatic at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Be interesting to see how he copes with that tomorrow, of course, when he resumes his action at least. See if he can get into that top 16. With it being a top 16 cut, he's got every chance of playing all the way through to the end tomorrow.
That's exactly right.